Hi, I'm Ashley Marable. I'm with the RTL AdAlliance. We're Europe's largest media owner and partners with NBC Universal in the States and in Europe, as well as being the owners of Fremantle, Penguin Random House, and BMG Music. I have the good fortune today, thanks to Brand Innovators, to interview Chantell Ghosh. She is the CMO of the Miami City Ballet, and she's going to tell us about the challenges and the successes of the ballet in Miami. So Chantell, I'd like to ask you first, describe what the Miami City Ballet is and what its mission is all about.
Absolutely. Miami City Ballet is a very large ballet organization, going to be celebrating our 40th year. We're a Balanchine-based organization. We have 54 company dancers full-time. We perform with a live orchestra, and we do both existing works as well as new works. We perform our full season in all three counties, Miami, Broward, and West Palm Beach, and we also tour to Europe, to South America, and throughout the U.S.
Wow, that's a broad portfolio. But I know, like every business, you're marketing your business, it's a challenge. COVID has changed the whole playing field. How did that hit the ballet?
Well, I think like everything that required people to be together physically, whether it's performing arts, whether it's travel, certainly anything that got people in a room, it severely impacted us. But it also created opportunities to look at new ways of the business of the arts and challenged us to really consider how we create art and how we reach an audience. So it was devastating for a period of time because dancers couldn't be together. We couldn't get audiences together. And everything, even from the purpose of being able to run a ballet school, all of those things had just had the rug pulled out from under them. So it was incredibly challenging. Particularly when you consider that so much of our traditional audience is older and was more at risk when it came to things like COVID. So it was a number of years where we really had to reinvent how to stay connected to an audience without worrying about revenue, we couldn't perform in performance halls, so it was about bringing the art form out into the community, outside, in ways that traditionally we hadn't done, and really thinking about how we were going to come back and reapproach an audience and reapproach the content when we could people again.
Yeah, and I don't know a whole lot about ballet, but you described to me that the idea of taping a performance is not possible because of rights issues associated with the way the ballet economic model works. So you had no opportunity to connect with your audience during the pandemic until you were allowed to be physically present again. Yeah,
it was very, very challenging. There are times that you can create digital works and that kind of thing, but when you're talking about traditional, existing pieces of work, there is a choreographer or a trust that owns the rights to that work. There is an orchestra that plays it. You actually have royalties for the composer, you have royalties for the orchestra, and none of the legal or royalty framework in traditional arts anticipated multi-channel approaches and monetizing things digitally. It very much relied on live performances. And in fact, I would say that many traditional art forms were loath to even consider what a digitized experience might be because that's not what they do, right? They do live in-person performances. So it really challenges the idea of what the art form is and how to bring it to people.
Sure. But there is good news, though, from what I understand. Because of COVID, there's been a huge migration of folks to Florida, which has brought a whole new opportunity set for you.
Absolutely. And I think, we always think of our getting back to basics in terms of marketing, and that's been a big challenge for us and a big opportunity for us in South Florida because there's been an in-migration year over year over the last 3 years of 16 to 20% population increase. That is a huge number of people showing up, and we know they're there. Certainly it has led to the real estate challenges. You can't get into the restaurants you wanted to get into. There's a vibrant economy in South Florida, but it's also trying to figure out who are the people that are there and who are the most likely going to convert and become either new fans of our ballet or new fans of the ballet in its entirety. And we've really had to focus on some disciplined data mining to figure out where those folks are and get them to know that there's a world-class ballet in their new community and have them join us. And the speed of acquisition is actually much quicker than traditionally when you're trying to introduce yourself to a new audience. So that's been something very unique. But in terms of rebuilding post-COVID, we're really in a great position of bringing new people into the ballet. And hopefully over time, now that they're in our funnel, converting them to long-standing, multiple interaction type of partners with us.
Great. Can you describe, you mentioned to me a couple of ways that you're reaching out as a marketer in very tactical ways.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously working with performing arts organization, and it's a nonprofit, we, like everyone, have resource constraints. So we have to be very surgical about how are we going to, really get in front of new audiences in a way that will hopefully convert them quickly and bring them into the fold. So again, it's data. It's just good marketing, no matter what you do, is that looking and going, where have traditionally our best, most easily persuadable audiences come from? How do we align that with where we know there is growth in population? So looking at areas that have had, that are, sort of match our patron base, but have had quite a bit of real estate turnover, for example. Looking at zip codes in where we have been very successful traditionally that match up with where people are moving into, because chances are those communities are, contain a lot of persuadables. And we've seen that.
Word of mouth.
Absolutely. And then working with partners and really working with some great brand partners in terms of hospitality partners, our visitor convention bureau, our hotel concierge, real estate concierges that are welcoming new people. Focusing on that and doing on those micro communities and reaching out to them both in terms of traditional direct mail, but also a lot of digital outreach, getting very surgical to make sure that we're really getting the best ROI for that expenditure. And then hopefully getting them to come back because they've had an amazing experience and realize you've got this world-class ballet with a full orchestra performing in your community.
Yeah. You mentioned also the New York Times.
Yes.
How do you use the Times?
So one of the things we've done is built out campaigns recognizing again that from a psychographic standpoint, that if you are someone who has relocated from Chicago, New York, Boston, Philly, down to South Florida, and you were a Times subscriber there, and now you're a Times subscriber in Fort Lauderdale or in Miami or in West Palm Beach, there is a great overlap with the folks that are actually open to things that are arts and culture. They're cultural omnivores. So being able to track their movement as a subscriber and to piggyback on the information that our media partners have on their constituents and saying, okay, we know that these are folks that were consumers of arts and culture content and they were patrons in where they came from. They're going to be our most likely patrons here to where they've moved. And we also want to introduce them to the amazing things that are in Miami from an arts and culture perspective, including a world-class ballet. I mean, I love the beach, but it isn't all the beach.
Sure. And do you work with other arts organizations in the city?
We do.
Do you support each other?
We absolutely do. We're kind of the 900-pound gorilla in the room. We are the largest arts organization in South Florida. We are the largest supporter of artists. We have more paid artists in South Florida than any other organization because we have 54 full-time dancers and we have an orchestra that we're committed to for the year, for our entire season. So, those are salaried, paid positions, and we are providing them with their income, the biggest part of their income for the year. So working collaboratively with other arts organizations is great. They tend to be facing some of the similar challenges we're facing. They do tend to be smaller. So, there is looking for a peer in South Florida that is the same size as us and that we can, really play off of is sometimes challenging. So we really look outside of South Florida, peers outside of even sometimes the US. And I look for a lot of folks that are in live entertainment, sports, things that are not necessarily an identical play, but are experientially driven and that use a lot of the same methodologies we do.
So we talked too a little bit about how important it is to have a vibrant arts culture in a city. So I would imagine the ballet is a big part of that arts community in Florida.
Absolutely.
How does the state, how does the city look at you?
Well, we're really lucky to get a lot of support from the city of Miami Beach, where we have our venue, and the city of Miami and the counties that we work in. But I do think that just writ large, there is a challenge of people connecting economic vitality to a vibrant arts and cultural scene. So one of the things that I really work on and is constantly in our messaging is that if you want to have a world-class city that attracts visitors, that attracts foreign direct investment, that attracts head offices, the growth of regional offices, you want to attract those things, you need to have a vibrant arts and cultural core, because nobody wants to live, invest, work, or visit a city that does not have museums, theater, music, dance, or art.
Yeah.
That is why every great city has those things. So as much as the idea of, the arts needs you, and you should support the arts because, we're nonprofits and yes, absolutely, please support the arts. I'm a big, I want that to happen. But more importantly, every great city, every business, every university, every visitor convention bureau, every chamber of commerce needs to have a strong arts core. These are symbiotic relationships. When you look at the cities that are still post-COVID are struggling with a shelled out downtown and restaurants and retail that have fallen apart, the road to recovery isn't just the return of sort of those corporate people coming back to work.
Sure.
It is people coming in for events. It is people coming in to see theater, to see the symphony, to see ballet. Yeah. That is what is going to have a tipping point.
It creates a sense of community. Makes the city feel better about itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our job as arts leaders, as creators of artistic content, that our product is inspiration. Our product is joy, right? In a world that is so full of challenges right now, and stories of sadness and tragedy and conflict and polarization, that you can sit in community and have an experience that uplifts and moves you is incredibly powerful. Yeah. So what city shouldn't want that? What state shouldn't want that and say, this is really important to us? When we lose arts organizations, when we lose arts, we lose parts of what makes a city a great city.
I can tell you that living here through COVID, I had many, many, many friends because I've lived here for almost my entire life. And when Broadway was shut down and all of the cultural stuff was shut down, people said, why am I in New York without the culture?
Yeah.
That's why I live in New York.
I can't go to theater. I can't go to an art exhibit.
That's why I pay a premium to live in this city, because it's so vibrant and interesting, and it attracts such a melting pot of people.
But also, I say never bet against New York.
I said the same thing. So anyway, to conclude, what is your biggest challenge? What keeps you up at night? As a marketer, we're talking about
as opposed to just life. Which, though, I honestly, I do think that there's a parallel in those things. The things that keep us up as human beings also keep me up at night as a marketer and as a leader of people and a leader in an organization where there's a lot of people relying on us for a livelihood and that kind of thing. I think a big part of it is, we know that consumer behavior has changed. We know that there has been a geographic shift. There has been a psychological shift. There has been every workplace shift in how people are thinking about things, spending their time, spending their money. So for me, it's really about, how do I build a relationship with the people that are in my sphere of influence now? How do I invite them in? How do I give them the thing that they want, and how do we respond to that? So instead of saying, well, let's tell them why they should care about coming to the ballet, it's how do we create things they care about? And how do we bring them in and make them feel that they are part of the conversation, that this is relevant to them, and that we are a partner in creating a great life for them? And it is existential. It's not just about selling them a ticket to a thing. There's lots of things you can buy tickets to. How do we become part of what is the core of what makes their life good? Because that's the only way that we are going to be sustainable and vibrant.
How do you do that? Do you have an example?
Absolutely. I think, for us, with a lot of the new works that we're doing, in particular, Miami is 75% Hispanic. There is a very big, Cuban population. So for last year, we did a new work that was very much like a love letter to Miami, and it dealt with, it was all the music of a very famous Cuban composer done on piano on the stage. The benefit of dance is that it doesn't rely on English language. So it is
nice.
it is multicultural. You know, you don't have to understand, you know, words and dialogue in English. If you're hard of hearing, if you have, you know, sight, there's always going to be something that is beneficial to you that you can participate in. So for us, it's very much about how do we connect with the audience we have. So doing new works where we use a famous Cuban composer that is like the Gershwin of Cuba, adding in sights, sounds, using local designers. How do we tell the stories of our community? You know, even with our Ballet for Young People, we did a partnership with the Joffrey for Rita Finds Home, it's called, and it's about a displaced family after a hurricane and how do they build a new home. That really hits in South Florida.
Yeah.
That is very much a story of a lot of people that are in South Florida. That idea of displacement, maybe not from a hurricane, maybe from political strife, maybe from, you know, economic strife. But it hits with people. So how do you find a way to connect with their personal story so they feel seen, they feel heard, and what is happening on the stage moves them in their life?
Well, that's great. I think that's it for us. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.